meeting is 2 o'clock, which is our appointed hour, and I'm going to do our protocol associated with a special call meeting, which is I'm going to call our meeting to order, which will be the Board of Aldermen, and I'm going to read my page as a call for special meetings, special call meetings, so y'all bear with me on that. In accordance with provisions of section 21-3-21, Mississippi Code of 1972 as amended, Mayor Dennis Rule is hereby gives notice of a special call meeting to be held Tuesday, February 17, 2026 at 2 p.m. in the second floor conference room of the City of Starkville City Hall located at 110 West Main Street of the Mayor of the Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville. Specific agenda items of the meeting are listed as follows. A is presentation and discussion by John Cunningham of Neil Schaefer Engineers on the MDEQ requirements for the proposed remediation and closing of the Rockville landfill. B is discussion regarding sharing resources for the proposed development and adoption of building and inspection codes by Tillamook County for areas around the City of Starkville that are contiguous and planned for denser development. And C is discussion and consideration of appointing a committee to develop an RFQ to evaluate the feasibility and cost for relocation and construction of a new county municipal jail, signed by myself and dated February 9, 2026 at 10 a.m. So, President Howard, is there something you need to do to call your meeting to order?
No, we just actually recessed out of our meeting yesterday, so we're now back in session.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Well, in that case, let me just set the stage for Mr. Cunningham, who's kind enough to be here. And I put him first because he's on the clock, so we don't put him sitting through all the other stuff. He's with Neil Schaefer, and in researching this before our meeting today, I went through all my old emails and discovered that this actually started back in 2016, before I was in office, certainly. And so Mr. Cunningham has been dealing with this for a lot longer. But the discovery of the expansion beyond the borders of the existing landfill were in 2016, I believe. And so I also put a map in front of you just so that you'll have a look at what the map reflects. But Mr. Cunningham is going to provide us with a kind of a timeline and a way forward and basically where we are right now. Because as it stands with our interlocal agreement, the city and the county are 50-50 owners of the property. But operationally speaking, we are 65% of the operational costs and the county is 35% of the operational costs. So over the years, we've got, X amount each one of us has invested in this or spent on this. But since 2018, I guess we've actually been closed. So anyway, Mr. Cunningham, if you would please, unless there's some questions as a lead-in for him. Yes, ma'am.
One more time, how many acres this is?
John, 40?
Well, it's the total landfill was about 80 acres or so permitted originally.
Okay,
But we are closing about, 13.66 acres, so
has the other part not been used?
it has not been used, that's right.
Thank you.
And it's been released back at this time, back to the city for whatever uses see fit.
Okay.
Thank you.
If everybody I got a handout, I've got this PowerPoint here, if everybody wants to try to look at it, or you can follow on in the handout here I've got as well. Let me start off, as the mayor said, I wanted to kind of give you a recap of where we are, how we got here, what's involved, a little bit with the regulations as far as go along with this landfill. We talk about the closure plan that we have to have completed. Go through a few timelines, and I've got a little budget here, and then I can open the floor up for any questions or comments anybody may have. I'll start out by saying that this landfill is permitted through a general permit with the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality. And has to follow those guidelines, rules, and regulations under the state of Mississippi laws. With that, when a landfill like this goes into operation, it's inspected annually by MDEQ for making sure things are in compliance and so forth, and everything's operational like it should. There's an annual report that is required every year by an operator of a landfill like this. It has to go back to MDEQ. This landfill has been dormant, like the mayor said, since 2018, but we've still been reporting yearly on that it's been inactive, and so we just submitted the 2025 calendar year report last week. So, again, even though it's dormant, we're still having to go through the process of staying within the regulations. And so where we are is trying to get to the final closure of the site. But back in 2015, there was some inspection done that showed some non-compliance areas that were believed present. That's back when we got involved with the city on trying to do a little due diligence and come up with where things really were with the landfill. Was there anything that was actually out of compliance? And at that time, we did find that waste was outside of the permitted limits. It was not built to the slopes were built too steep, things like that had occurred. And at that time, a notice of violation came out in 2016 requesting a correction plan that the city would have to put forth to get things back in order, get things back in compliance. Part of that process we went through, I had to do additional bores, soil bores out there. And when I say it was outside of the limits, it was actually outside almost on other people's property. And so part of that correction plan was coming back and looking at how to get things back in compliance. Whether the options you had back then were to either take everything and relocate it back into the areas we had permitted, which you were about to move about 100,000 plus yards of waste that had gotten outside of those limits. And that's a lot of money. And so the option was looked at to purchase the property to expand the landfill. That way we could get everything enclosed in permitted limits, but also it would allow the closure to take place. So that's where what happened was we went through permit modification to actually, of course, the city went and bought the land, got everything like that. We went back to MDQ and with a permit modification request, plus at that time it was discussed about getting out of the business and not taking that rubbish onto the Golden Triangle landfill, and that's how everything got inactive, got dormant, and that's where we got to that point. 2019, we submitted a permit modification and closure plan. In 2022, we actually got that permit approved. However, the closure plan, there was no action taken by MDQ at that time. Right now, we have a verbal from MDQ to go forward with a closure plan, and so that's kind of where we're at this point. I wanted to just show you kind of what's involved here with this. If you can see this area I'm kind of pointing to right here is what the waste area that got outside of the limits. And of course, this is the area that was purchased to actually modify the permit to be able to leave this waste in place, come back in and do some remediation, flattening these slopes and moving some of this waste into the middle area here. So we've got at this point, with closing the landfill, we have to go back to MDQ with that plan. It happens again, we're waiting on official approval from them on that, so we hope to have that here soon, even though we've got verbal to go ahead. But we've got about 13.66 acres that we've got to be closed. That means we've got to relocate about a little over 59,000 cubic yards of waste. Again, that's it's steeper slopes, there's outside, some areas there even still in the buffer area. So that's part of the plan. This is a sheet from the closure plan that wanted to show you, kind of give you an idea of what's involved. Again, this is the area that has been permitted. This is the area that the buffer area that we had to buy to be able to modify the permit. And again, some of this waste here has got some steep slopes here, and on the outside here that's got to be taken care of, and that waste will be moved back into the middle and vertically to be able to take care of that and get it back into regulated limits.
I want to ask you a question, if you don't mind, I don't mean to interrupt you, but.
Sure.
When you were talking about the 59,000 cubic yards of waste, that are there, what are you talking about doing with that?
Well, we actually, in part of the modification of the permit, when this permit was issued, you're only allowed to go 25 feet above existing ground with waste. And so part of the modification, since you had more room, on one side, was you could spread out horizontally, but at the same time, we could go up. And by doing some analysis, slope stability analysis and things like that, when you go higher than 25 feet, to be able to allow us to put that relocated waste in that upper area as we went up vertically above 25 feet. That makes sense.
So I think, because I had the same question, we are taking that 59,000 of cubic yards and just replacing it in the same.
That's right.
Redistributing it in the same landfill. Just moving it around.
And so you can close it with that waste there.
Yeah, that's right.
Topsoil, I mean, you gotta go through the whole final cap layer, the topsoil, that's what's on the next, on that, so.
Yeah.
We don't have to hold it.
So part of that.
That's why.
You get the waste back inside the permanent limits, 4-to-1 slopes that are flatter slopes, and they're out there 3-to-1 and steeper. So we got to get those slopes laid back, move that waste into the top, get all that spread out, and there'll have to be some intermediate soils brought in there to kind of shape it up to be able to get some actual slopes. You got concrete and other type rubble that give you some irregularities on those slopes. But once that's done, then we go in and the contractor will put 18 inches of a low permeable soil, which is a fat clay basically, to make a cap layer that will not allow water to penetrate that soil and will shed away and keep from creating potential wastewater problems and all that rubbish that can come with decomposition of some of the vegetation and other things like that that are buried in that landfill. Once we get that in place, we put another 6 inches of topsoil on it, grass it. We're going to put a fence around everything, and once all that's been certified by a testing lab we'll have in place and that sort of thing, and sent in to MDQ and they accepted it, then the landfill's closed. And then there comes into what is called post-closure care after one is closed. And what that means is just having to maintain the site, basically mowing and making sure that nothing's eroding. We haven't had any problems with that cap layer. That's the most, from a water quality standpoint, that's what that cap layer is doing, is protecting water quality from having a problem with that going forward.
Just out of curiosity, is that cap going to encapsulate the gases that's generated?
Yes, but it's from a rubbish side of things, you don't get the type of gas that you would out of, say, at Golden Triangle with municipal waste. It's a higher decomposition rate and puts off more gas, where they have to do something with the gas at some point. Either got to vent it, they're burning it out there at Golden Triangle. It's got, and of course, a long time they were taking it and putting it on a generator and putting electricity back on the grid. But yes, but we won't have to have anything like that for this. There's enough inert materials in this that you don't get that problem.
So we're just gonna have to keep it mowed and keep it cleaned up and the fence in place, and MDEQ will come out. Is it an annual inspection?
I believe they'll probably start doing an annual inspection that might lead into
Every 2 years?
every 2 years, every 5 years.
And you're going to get back with us on exactly how long it has to be inert or dormant before it can be potentially used
That's
for
right.
something else, given that it's not a Golden Triangle landfill, it's a rubbish landfill.
That's right, yeah. For a municipal landfill like Golden Triangle, when you close something like that, you've got to go through a 30-year post-closure care period as part of that process. Now, I don't, that's something we need clarification on, I think, from MDQ as to if they're gonna hold, on this permit, they're gonna hold you to 30 years or not. But I think,
Do the things that have proximity to the fenced area, the actual waste area, are they limited because of their proximity to that? Or that it was originally, you know, the whole big thing was designed as a landfill, but we haven't used all the cells. So is that remaining land available, or are we restricted in some kind of way?
so we're actually closing 13.66 acres,
Right.
and the rest of it, out of the 80 or some odd acres that is part of that original permitted area, has been taken out of the permit altogether.
Okay, so it's
So
available land?
It's available for y'all to do
something.
what you want to do with it.
Okay.
And of course, you got the old sanitary landfill that's been closed out there already too. That is an area that can't be disturbed, but
Okay, do you have those dimensions of that?
we do.
Create a map of that?
Can.
Okay, cool.
I wanted to ask, I just want to make sure, I know you said it's a rubber landfill, but there's nothing that we're gonna encapsulate in there that's gonna, do anything to do with the groundwater, you know, going in.
It should. You got about 300 feet of chalk below there from a geological standpoint.
I didn't know.
And that's a pretty good barrier for any, in that first real aquifer that's Utah formation is about, you know, right below that from a water, groundwater standpoint, and, but you should. Same thing, you know, we do like Golden Triangle, when those cells are built out there, we line the bottom with a 2-foot cap of clay too, or a clay liner. But most landfills are required to have a plastic liner on top of that. But we were able to show back then when that landfill was sited with MDQ that there was enough geological formation of that chalk under there that the plastic liner wasn't needed for protecting the groundwater. So you've got that barrier here too that should do the same thing.
And of course, we remember back in 1982, when all this came into being, there were no restrictions like there are now. So we're having to, you know, comply with MDEQ that was much less restrictive, I would guess. I wasn't around then, but I'm guessing it was much less restrictive. So.
One other item I've got here, I just want to show y'all kind of what the closure plan looks like and how we went up partially here. So these are just the final contours we put together so far on how this will be built out, constructed once we get to that point. There were 5 cells out here, and this is part of 5, 1, and 2, just for reference there. As far as timelines go, we do want to have an official letter or something back from MDEQ approving the closure plan that was submitted back in 2019. We've asked for that, expect it here soon. Put a 30-day window on that. We'll need another 60 days to get through, put together final bid documents, and taking those same drawings, some of the same ones I just showed you as part of that closure plan, and fine tuning that, and put bid documents together, get those out and advertised over about a 45-day period. And you want to look at maybe another 60 to award a contract in construction. We've allowed for 150 days of construction, and it's probably going to take 60 days to get it back to MDEQ for final approval once we get to that point. So you're looking at a 9 to 12 month period from start to finish going forward. This is estimated construction and engineering cost, $1.581 million on construction with about a 10% contingency. Engineering, $171,000 for a total of $1.91 million to date. That's the latest estimate I've gotten together, and hopefully it'll stay that way.
Yeah, that's actually a lot better than you.
Yeah, we've had as
surmised it might
much
be about a year
as,
ago.
some say almost twice that on construction, so, hopefully we'll get some good competition. We've got some local, competition around here now that can probably make these numbers, work, and, we hope that'll be the case.
Okay. All right, guys, any questions of Mr. Cunningham while we got our hands on him? All right, well, thank you very much.
All right.
And so you're gonna get those documents together and I'll put them in front of the board.
Right.
Once you hear, well, once we get the written from MDQ that we can proceed.
Right.
All right.
I'm assuming that closure cost is a cost share? Is that what we're looking at?
Sir, I'm sorry.
I'm assuming that the closure cost, decommissioning cost would be a cost share?
Yes, well.
At 50/50?
Yes, the ownership of the land is 50/50, the operations, but I would not call this operation. We'll let those two work out whether this is operations or if it's land cost. But I would default to 50/50 on the land cost. And place itself. But I think we also have an opportunity to take a look and see what else is available with the remaining property out there. So I didn't realize that there was that much that was not a part of either the landfill or the rubbish site. So if you could get that.
I'll get you the acreage on that too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll do a little exhibit for
How
y'all.
long do we have to, I'm sorry,
No.
how long do we have to continue monitoring, and what would those ongoing costs over the next 30 years look like?
I can help with that a little bit, just because the last few years,
Yes, ma'am.
Wayne, when it's been closed, in 2020, we had a cost of $851. In 2021, we had a cost of $582. So
Oh.
basically, it's the engineer who's put together that annual report for us, and then I just sign it electronically,
That's right.
and that's it. Now, if they come out and want to visit, then probably there's a little more engineering to go with it, just so that he would visit, he would go with them and then show them whatever it is they needed from MDQ. But
They-
basically, it hasn't been an inordinate amount of funding the last few years.
A lot of these, I'll say this, a lot of the sanitary landfills that were closed out like it's been done at that landfill already, that were closed out back in the 90s, early 90s, because of sub-D title regulations that went into place and made everybody go to a municipal landfill for municipal waste. Some of those that are closed or got trees standing on them now in other places, in other cities and counties. I say that to say that I don't know what kind of monitoring we'll be seeing. We're at a point across the state where, because these rubbish sites were put into place back then to help offset, I guess, some of that cost of having to take waste so far away, like the Golden Triangle, versus trying to handle your rubbish locally and be able to put it in your own landfill and have that savings. So we're seeing the closures, those lives like this one have lived out, or either their decision's been made to get away from that side of things, that business. And so we're seeing more closures across the state because either running out of room or they're doing, they're closing the site altogether, again, for not wanting to be in that business. But the main thing on closure that you're looking at, once you get grassing established and you're maintaining that, you're probably gonna have to fertilize, reseed every so often. Make sure you're not getting bare spots, that you are losing that vegetation, you start having erosion and problems on that cap. And you lose that part of that protective barrier, and part of that, with those erosion problems that can happen. So if that were to happen, then that'd be something MDQ would say, hey, you need to fix that and get that back. And what they would probably require is whoever did it, they would just want some testing to show that it was put back to what was approved when it was closed. As far as permeability is what the main thing. That's just making sure you've got that barrier where it's compacted and it's creating that permeable layer that water won't penetrate it and you can get down below it.
Did you say how long this commitment would be? Did I miss?
I don't have that's one thing I was talking to the mayor about, that I want to get a good answer from MDEQ. The regulations, I don't remember them saying, they're identifying rubbish sites, class 1 and class 2, as to what time period they're going to expect. They tend to, if it's not broken out like that or defined in detail, most times they're going to lean back towards what they're already doing with municipal landfills, and that's 30 years.
Vice Mayor, I'm sorry.
Thank you for the recognition, Mayor. Mayor, in looking and observing in this presentation, I see that the overall cost is $1,910,000, and the honorable chairperson of the Board of Supervisors asked the question, is the cost sharing going to be 50-50? What I would like to see as a member of our board, as soon as possible, given the very substantial amount that is going to require from the city, I would like to be provided with a copy of our budget that would clearly inform all of us as soon as possible as to the available funding that we're going to have to pay for this, because we have a very enormous amount of needs in our city now, and we often look when the money's not there till millage increase. So I'm very hopeful that we can get this information very soon, given that this is a cost share, and obviously with this on the agenda today, there must be some urgent need to move forward. But 1.9 million almost put us at $1 million. So I would like to be provided with a copy of, along, I'm sure, of the other members of the board that they'll speak for themselves, but I'd like to be provided with a copy of any and all available funding sources, so we can consider this very prudently and conservatively as we look at our many other substantial needs, including our needs that I'm often tasked with and called about in our 22 annexation. And every time I turn around, I'm getting a call about annexation needs, areas that were brought into the city involuntarily. So I would like to see this budget as to our available funding source as soon as possible.
Vice Mayor, I'm going to recognize Alderman Sister because she is obviously a budget person and can give you the information that you
Sure,
like.
so whoever has
Yes,
it,
sir.
I just need it.
So, really good news, Vice Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
If you remember, we, when we closed the landfill, we set up a landfill remediation fee on our sanitation bill. We've been escrowing that money through the years, and so that has grown to the point that I believe our share is covered.
And Mayor, may I recognize?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to be aware of that, and that needs to be said, because I'm not privy to the information on a daily or weekly. I'm not a member of the budget committee, so I need to know, because when I'm faced with the city, because I don't have any appetite for any millage increase. Mayor, I yield. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to just clarify, you have said rubbish, a couple of times, that's what that field is. Could you give us like the definition of what is out there, just for, everybody?
There's a list of things that you can put in a class 1 rubbish site. Class 2 is more towards just demolition type material, rubble, brick, concrete, things like that. When you get to class 1, you can put some other things in there like asphalt you want to get rid of, or some plastics. But what that and there are some plastics out there from some of the local industry here that's happened over the years. So the majority of it, and of course vegetation like limbs and grass clippings and things like that, stumps, and so that's the majority of what's out there is some plastics, concrete, brick, and vegetation type debris.
All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right. Mr. Cunningham, you're off the clock.
No. All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much
y'all.
for being here. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thank y'all.
And for the continued work that you're doing. Over these many years.
All right. Y'all take care.
And so not for me to be doing this, but Wayne and I, where'd Wayne go? Oh, okay. Opportune moment to leave. Wayne and I had discussed, and I tend to try to watch your board meetings, board supervisor meetings. And one of the things that I know that y'all are looking at is the potential expansion to use planning and zoning and do building inspections, maybe. And so one of the things I thought about, and I think Supervisor Howard and I, President Howard and I, and Supervisor Trainer and I have talked about off and on over the years, is how we might collaborate on some of the expertise that we've got that might be of use to you guys. And so we obviously have building inspectors, and we have planning and zoning person. So I thought what I would do is suggest that, as y'all move forward with this concept, that we would be happy to be able to help if possible, without y'all staffing up necessarily. It just depends on what all is going on. Because you do have a lot of development that's going on both to the east and to the west, and certainly some to the south. And so depending on how far out you decide to draw that area, which I think y'all are still considering what you're going to do with that. So I'm not doing anything other than just saying that this may be an opportunity for us to look how we can collaborate with you or assist you in fulfilling some of the needs that you might have, as y'all take that into consideration with the not Slaughter anymore, with Willingham and Associates, I believe it is now.
That's correct.
So that was all this was intended to be, was to have that potential conversation or express that ability or willingness to share those particular needs with you.
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, we've certainly, well, one, we're in the middle of updating our comprehensive plan. And involved in that, we've often talked about over the years, looking at a buffer zone. And that the area just outside of the city limits, but still within touch of the city, where city services could be offered out in that buffer zone. And those are areas that's pretty densely populated, and would be some bleed over from the city into those areas. So we've talked about how we might be able to partner with the city possibly and look at using some of your services for some of your codes and code enforcement type things of that nature. So yeah, this is a conversation that we've had. We've just sort of briefly talked about it on several occasions, but I think the possibilities are there, and I think the board has the appetite to delve into this, and take a little deeper look into it.
Well, I just knew that, if you drew a half a mile, or you drew a mile, whatever you might draw to make that determination as y'all are going forward, that I wanted us to be able to say that we can help where possible on that, because obviously it's one of those things that at some point in time will probably end up annexed into the city, 100 years from now, or whenever. So it's just seemed like a smart way for us to at least communicate and partner about it, if y'all decide to do that. And if you don't, then no harm, no foul. So just offering that as an opportunity.
Absolutely.
And then, stay going. And then also, the jail issue, which is the big elephant in the room, was I was made aware by conversations with Mr. Carpenter and as well as Sheriff Phelps, and our own understanding of the jail being quite mature and in need of maintenance pretty regularly, and some more offices and some more space. And I make no secret of it that I have always wanted to get the jail out of our central business district and out of downtown. Mr. Robertson and I, Representative Robertson and I, have had this conversation for 20 plus years, as to how we might make this happen. And so since the jail seems to be reaching a point at which I believe it is a maintenance issue, and it's a space issue, and it's aging, I had thought that perhaps that might be another opportunity for us to consider how we might partner to do that. And so this was an exploratory opportunity to me for how we could conceivably partner to get a new jail that serves the city as well as serves the county. Obviously, we use beds in that jail, and that jail impacts our downtown and our central business district. And our central business district is starting to become much more economically viable. We're seeing land and property turnover and look like it's going to become residential as well as commercial in that very corridor where we're talking about. And so the highest and best use to me for some of that central business district property is not a jail. And so I'm just being straight up. I would really love to see something along those lines change so we can go to the highest and best use in that area, particularly when county needs are imminent, I believe. Am I seeing your hand?
You are sitting on.
Yes, ma'am. Please feel free.
I mostly wanted to say that I took the opportunity to tour the jail last week, and
Those floors sure are shiny.
those,
okay?
and it smelled good too, but I understand that was just because we were visiting. But anyway, it is an older building. It is, it doesn't function well now for the purpose that it needs to serve. It doesn't have a lot of areas that they need to have in order to be able to do a better job of housing the inmates that are there. It has reached near the end of its useful life. So I think that the county is smart to be thinking about doing something with that particular building. I don't think it's necessarily something that can be rehabbed. I think I think it would be not cost effective to rehab it.
You got the space to rehab it, yes, ma'am.
I want to say, we have, at length, but here and there, we discussed, a new jail. Where, we hadn't decided on anything, when, we hadn't decided on anything. We have had discussions with, people that are, that live in jails and that do, that is gonna be a huge undertaking. And I'm not speaking for the entire board, but I think that we've all discussed that, we don't know whether we want a new jail or a justice complex, put the jail on the backside, of it. We don't know. We haven't, none of that has been decided because it's gonna take a lot of money, to do it. It's gotta be the correct place to do it, where everybody feels comfortable, where the jail, the courthouse, wherever it may be, will be. But I do think that is something that is on the, that's definitely on the county's radar, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely, absolutely. We certainly realize that the city and the county is joined at the hip. And there are some projects that would be beneficial that we might could partner on. We certainly, our Sheriff Phelps he's here and he can definitely speak to the condition of the jail and the age of the jail and some of the challenges that they are having down at the jail. So I've always said that it's good to start this conversation. Let's start talking about it and see where the conversation would lead. But I would certainly defer to our sheriff on speaking it because even somewhere down the road, if we partner and build a facility together, there's still a lot of nuances and details that has to be worked out with the new jail, partnering on a new jail. But the fact is, the jail has been there a long time. We've often discussed, as Supervisor Little said, the need for a new jail. Some of our discussion has been, where do we put it at? I think you looked at a location that could possibly work. But we've discussed it, and I would defer to our sheriff to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Alderman Vaughn wanted to say something. Can I
Oh,
just
absolutely.
Here for a minute?
Absolutely.
That would be one of my questions, to share, bring this to you, he needed a new jail, that would be one of my questions. And, if he ran out of space, he don't have enough space to house one that he has, inmates that he have, that was one of my questions. And the third question, where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from?
Well, and that's always the questions, and that's the reason to have a meeting, is to have that conversation. And I had the conversation with Mr. Carpenter, I had the conversation with Sheriff Phelps, and both of them indicated that there is certainly a need and a growing need. So that would be, yes.
It look like to me, if you were having that much with the jail, the shortage of this, and it's all this, look like he would come to you. Look like he would be the one implementing this program. He would be the one starting this. He would be the one trying to get it started instead of we get it started. Look like he would be the one to get it started.
Well, I think he's been to the county, and I am, if nothing else, Alderman Vaughn, I am certainly somebody who wants to try to get things done. So, you know, I kind of kick things in the rear to get them going if I can. And so this is part of how I thought we might be, if anything, we might consider partnering, and we might consider moving it along and helping them move along with it. So that was my thought, and if nothing else, we've had a nice conversation here at the table. So, Sheriff,
Yeah, I'll say a few. The jail, this September will be 34 years old. The jail is working fine now. It's no doubt that I've talked to my board. We have had discussions for several months now about we need to start making plans for a new jail. I don't know when it's coming. It's so much to look at. You've got location, you've got when, you just like Alderman Vaughn. Where's the money coming from? But it's something that we do need to talk about. But the jail is functioning fine. The inmates are taken care of, the office. But also, when the jail was built back in '92, it was 10 road deputies. Now we've got 35. It's just the time is changing. But as of the inmates and everything that's going on, everybody's taken care of at the jail. The jail is clean. Yes, we do have maintenance problems, but just like anything else, if you own something, you're gonna have maintenance. But I know, like I said, I've talked to my board, I've talked to the county administrator. The talk has been going on about moving forward with a new jail.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I have given a lot of thought to this issue, very important issue for our community. And let me just say, as a matter of protocol and respect and honor and professionalism, at this time, Mayor, I'm just going to put it like it is. The sheriff is the duly elected law enforcement officer countywide, and he's certainly, in the eyes of the voters, possessed a very enormous amount of law enforcement experience. He served as a deputy sheriff for many years, and our longtime sheriff, Honorable Dolph Bryan, and other outgoing sheriff, and he served as constable, and he's also served as director of emergency management. He has a lot of experience. And I am of the opinion that if this county needs a new jail, Mr. Sheriff, and I'm giving complete deference to you. You're the professional. You're the expert. You know, I'm an attorney, so I'm gonna stay in my lane. I cannot tell you or say to you, Mr. Sheriff, you need a new jail. You know whether or not you need a new jail. You there with it. That is your duty that you've been charged with by the qualified electors of this county. And you won this position in a very large way. I am of the opinion, Mr. Sheriff, that we, in my opinion, should wait until and unless you give that announcement. If you do not give that announcement, then it is my opinion that we should defer any further conversation on this matter until and unless you do so. You've given your brief narrative just a minute ago about that the jail is fine, it's working, and you didn't say anything to us today that yes, we need to move forward with a committee. You didn't say that. You didn't say that we need to have a feasibility study. So I'm satisfied with that. You know, I'm one that gives deference to those who has that level of expertise, expert knowledge, and who has the training and experience in the background. You walked that jail many days. You've been in that jail more than any of us can ever imagine. And certainly, if you say that you want a new jail, we would know that. And then if there is an announcement of a jail, then the qualified electors have to then decide where is the funding going to come from. And the jail is going to cost many, many millions of dollars, I would imagine. So, and I would think that, you know, our budget in the city, in my opinion, based on my limited knowledge about it, is not gonna have the available funding just to pay it out of the general fund. You know, we have a high school that's being discussed, and I don't hear much about it publicly, about $120 million high school, and that's gonna cost us a lot of money on the tax roll. You know, and the taxpayers are, in my opinion, from what I hear, they are burdened onerously. They are tired and sick and tired of all these taxes. And I'm one of those, along with my constituents. Now, but if you are the opinion, and you're the Mr. Sheriff, and you are duly elected, so I think that unless this honorable sheriff says he wants us to move forward, we need to cease the discussion. He's the top cop in our county. He was elected from all the 21, how many precincts, Mr. Board President? 21, 22?
22.
Yeah, he was the duly elected sheriff. We need to give deference. The sheriff has not come before us and say, well, Mr. Honorable Mayor, honorable members of the Starkville Board of Aldermen, honorable Board of Supervisors, we want him to jail. He just gave you the report. And so with that report, you know, there's no need to develop a committee today for the relocation and construction of new jail. The sheriff not asked for that. Why are we gonna play sheriff? We don't have one sheriff in this county. And Mr. Sheriff, and I'm sure that if this comes forward, then that's gonna be a plan. Then what the cost gonna be is gonna be in the millage increase. Can we afford a $30 or $40, $50 million jail, and then a $120 million more or less high school out there on leased land at Mississippi State University that we don't own? We got to make some decisions in this city, and the taxpayers that I represent, Ward 6, they have told me, said, Vice Mayor, we are tired of these millage increases. We don't want you to vote for another one. I said, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. I'm a servant. I know how to listen, pay close attention. I'm an old school lawyer, old school citizen. I understand and know how to be quiet and shut up when I'm told and give instruction. I came from old school. That's how we were taught in my family home. You follow instruction. When the people who are responsible talk, then you have to be quiet and listen. You understand how that works, Mr. Supervisor?
Absolutely.
And so, Mr. Sheriff, I give complete deference to you. And if there is not any indication from you, then we need to just adjourn this meeting and go home. This last one on the agenda. And I want, before I yield the floor, and Mr. Sheriff, I want to thank you for your leadership. And I worked closely with you when you were sheriff. I had cases with you. You've shown professionalism, you've shown pride, and you understand this city, and you understand this county. You work with our longtime sheriff, Honorable Doc Ryan, who knows the city in and out. And you got a lot of experience under him. And I know that because I'm an officer of the court. I'm an attorney. I've done a lot of sheriff, I've done a lot of criminal practice and cases down there. And I respect that and his role and his position. But we don't need to step out here today and establish a committee. And if we do, what's the rationale when the sheriff is not asking for this? So hopefully that we'll just not take any action on this and wait to hear from the sheriff if he decides to be heard from. Mayor Yield, thank you.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. Well, let me just say that it is my opinion, and I certainly respect yours, that there is more to it than simply jail. There is the city itself, there's our downtown, and all of that is an important element to who we are as a city and who we are as a county. And so I do not think that initiating this conversation is inappropriate or out of line, and particularly given the fact that I did have conversation with both Mr. Carpenter and Sheriff Phelps, as well as Mr. Robertson, and any number of others off and on over the years. So while we may not be ready to do so, I do think that the beginnings of having this discussion are entirely appropriate, because it is more than just about a jail. It is about our community. So, Alderman Moore,
I think, and Mayor, I appreciate that, because I do know that discussion has been going on for a long time, and I think everybody at this table agrees that it probably, you've run out of room, if nothing else, and the county's growing, and hopefully we don't have to lock up any more people, but we probably will. It was just one of those things, we're here to help, what can we do? And that kind of goes back to with the code enforcement stuff. Learn from our mistakes if y'all choose to do that, because we've made plenty, and that way we've gone before y'all. So we're here to help. We want to kind of get to where we can work together and on projects and going forward. So I do appreciate those conversations about the jail though, because that is what's the future of our downtown.
And I'd like to say that I heard Sheriff Phelps slightly differently, saying that things were working, but that there were problems in the foreseeable future in terms of growth, programming, the kinds of things that need to happen within the jail. Whether it's a city-county discussion or just a county discussion, the first step is always going to be to sit down and start to have a plan. It may not be implemented for 10 years, but you've got to start somewhere. And so by having those discussions, I think you are more likely to get to the point that you need to be when you're ready to pull the trigger on a jail. I'm going to use the McKee Park renovation and the splash pad at McKee Park as an example. When I ran for alderman in 2009, I visited with a little 7-year-old that lived in my neighborhood and told her, someday we're going to have a splash pad in McKee Park. And 20 years later, we have a splash pad in McKee Park. But you've got to start, you've got to have a vision for what you want, what you need, and then start to put together a plan about how you're going to do it, how you're going to fund it, who all is going to be engaged in that process, that sort of thing. And so I think it's an appropriate discussion. Would prefer that the city and county could have the discussion together, but at a minimum, it should be a county discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to say one other thing, because like I said before, the county has been proactive on this. It has just been a county discussion, just to, be prepared about it, and since I've been on board, I think, before we came in, so it's nothing that we're being derelict in our duties or any of the above that the county has. We may not have been vocal, and the sheriff, we're just being very methodical in what we're going to do, when we're going to do it, and how we're going to do it. But that discussion has been had by the county and, the people. And we are always open to any land y'all want to donate to us.
We talk about land
Put
stock.
it on the record.
Are you talking about under Rock Hill Road? Is that where you're
I didn't say where, I'm just saying, we're open to that.
Well, I do think that we have opportunities, again, over the years, from Supervisor Trainer, Supervisor Howard, we have had those conversations about doing things jointly, and this just seemed to me, actually I was just doing some research, and once I saw a statute that said municipal and county jails, I went, well, maybe there's an opportunity here. But, that is entirely on y'all, and if you want to pull the trigger on it at some point in time, that is fine. We will, from my perspective, I'm happy for us to explore how we might participate with you. So that was the intent of this, nothing more than that. And if we don't want to take up moving forward with any kind of exploratory effort, then that's fine with me too. So, all right. Yes, Supervisor Williams.
Well, I'm glad to know that I have great minds in the room today who can answer a question that have been pondered over for some time as to whether or not the jail has to be within close vicinity of the courthouse. If so, where would that be and still be within close vicinity of the courthouse? And I don't know whether that's true or false.
I don't think there's any statutory language about being near the courthouse.
And if so, if that is true, we would have to build an attachment to the jail to hear some of those criminal cases to be able to justify that particular requirement. And that might not be. I'm just glad that I got enough people in the room today to be able to answer that particular question.
Mr. Robinson may be able to answer that, but in the statutes that I read, there was no requirement that the jail be near the courthouse. So.
Okay.
I see him shaking his head. So I'm
There's no statutory issue with that. Now, there's obviously logistical issues with that as we choose to move forward with this. I think there's been discussions about a jail. I think there's been discussions about a justice complex with a potential dynamic, as Supervisor Williams said. But I'll defer to the sheriff and how he thinks about this.
Like I said earlier, when we was talking about the jail, I think we do need to be, but I've been moving with my board on the, we've been in a discussion about a new jail. I mean, I think it's time for us to start talking about it because of the age of the one we've got and the employees that we have now. But also you gotta think about when we move it, when it comes court time, it's probably gonna take 3 or 4 transport guys, be transporting my guy when we have court back and forth from the jail to court. So there's so many things to look at, like, as Patty said, we got to find some land, we got to find some money. But I think the talk is already here, about a new jail, but it's just gonna take time, But I'm willing to do whatever. I've got open policy. Anybody wants to come see me, they're welcome to. But, when you have something that's 34 years old, it's 34 years old, it's an older building. And it's, like I said, we keep it up the best we can do. Everything that the inmates, the employees, everybody's taking care of it at the sheriff's office. But we have had a discussion. I just wanted to let, the city, we have, as the county, we have talked about, a jail, county administrator and the supervisor. So we know, there's probably gonna be something here in the near future where we start moving forward with that way. But like I said, it's gonna take money, we're gonna try to find a good location. So if anybody can help on money or location, please let me know. I'll take it to my board.
That was kind of the thought about putting the group together to start looking at that, but I'm backing my way out of that and letting y'all do what you want to do. I'm sorry, President Howard?
Oh, no, I was just,
I'm sorry, I thought she was pointing, Supervisor Trainer.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I was just asking a question. Sheriff, how large is the jail now? Square footage wise?
I don't know square foot. I don't know that for sure. I can find out. I can hold about 125 inmates as of right now. That's count the new jail and the old jail. That's the one across the street and the new one.
What's your average?
My average is around probably 90, 95.
And I think we had talked about maybe 175 was, that we were thinking about maybe starting at looking, but this is just talk, we were talking the other night.
You mean tell me the population inmate count?
If we did a new jail, yeah, how many beds? Like he's got now 100, 125, we're thinking, well, maybe if it's new one, start with 175 and build it to where you're able to add on very easily, to it. Well, we were talking about it the other night.
Well, I'm thinking about square footage. I'm thinking, Mayor, residential square footage to build here in Starkville, what, about $200 square foot? I'm just using it for example.
More than that. And they're
Okay.
talking, well, actually,
Well,
the high school vice mayor that you were talking about a few minutes ago, Mr. McGee, Dr. McGee, excuse me, gave us an update at the partnership, board meeting this morning about it, and they were moving forward with it, and they were in the neighborhood of, what did we say? $400 a square foot?
Okay.
Something like that for the
Warren-
school, but that's a much more
Warren County is
sophisticated-
building a jail at $700 square foot.
I'm sorry?
Warren County, they're in the process of building one now at $700 square foot.
Hopefully we can cut that a bit, but okay.
Hey, I don't know. But now, one of the things I wanted to bring up, and of course, I think that's important, and I would support, establishing a committee, because I think in Lee County, it's taken them about 10 years to get where they are right now.
Theirs is a $97 million jail.
And I know it-
Sheriff Johnson.
And we understand the political dynamics behind that. But, Mayor, are you all aware, the inmates that are housed in the jail right now, you are aware of the new legislation that's coming out that could possibly cause the city and the county to renegotiate the cost of housing in municipal prison?
Yes, I'm aware of that. I know it's gone back and forth a couple of different times, so I don't know where it is right now, but I know that it's in discussion.
I think it looks like, if it passes, because a lot of things could change, it's going to set a floor for housing municipal inmates at $25 a floor. Now, there's no ceiling, but there's a floor. And a lot of my colleagues in other places tell me about the amount that most cities and counties have negotiated now is not sufficient to cover the cost of housing municipal inmates. And so if it's different here in Starkville, we would be probably one of very few, but I'm thinking it's probably about the same. So I think we probably need to look at some kind of discussion on, I don't know how many inmates, city inmates do we house,
It
Sheriff?
varies day to day, but I have an agreement. Sheriff Phelps is gonna send us a daily report.
Okay. And I know there's some discussion between when it becomes a city inmate, then when it goes over to a county inmate and some other thing.
Yes.
So, and I guess that would be a source that we need to be looking at, because I'm just using Harris County for an example. I know they get so much from Jackson, and I think it costs them $60 to send the prisoners to somewhere else to get them housed. And so I don't know whether we're in that same dynamic or not, but I'm sure we're running in a deficit, I guess, at some point.
Well, yes, I am. And my end would be that, of course, we, as part of our ad valorem taxes, we're also paying for the support of the jail. So just to give a little bit of perspective, but, you know, that's part of the reason for the discussion in the first place, is because, you know, from a jail perspective, we use it too. So, you know, how could we partner so that it makes sense that whatever proportion we use is part of a proportion that we potentially pay for? So that was part of my reason for considering this as an opportunity for us to have this discussion. Yes, ma'am.
And we've talked a lot about how many prisoners and beds and all that sort of thing. But one of the things that I took away from my visit and from talking with Sheriff Phelps and Captain Ward was that the ability to treat prisoners in the way that we really should be is they just don't have the space for it. They have very limited visitation space. They don't have any space for GED classrooms, for a chapel, for programming like that. So the jail reflects the times that it was built, and between that and the population growth, it's really nearing the end of its useful life. So.
Look, I think it's been established, the fact that the jail is nearing its end of life. And Mayor, I appreciate you wanting to have a dialogue, and that's what I thought it was going to be today, just a dialogue, just to talk about it. But as you all can see, that we have had extensive conversation with our sheriff and our county administrator and the board. You know, we're fully aware that the jail is nearing its end of life. I guess to Vice Mayor Perkins' point is probably the official way to kick this off would be our sheriff come to the Board of Supervisors and you know, make a presentation and let us know that it's time for us to move to the next phase, and that's probably establishing a committee, start to do a feasibility study, and then we come together again and have this meeting. So, you know, again, I'm very appreciative of having this dialogue, but again, maybe the official way to do this would be our sheriff come to the board and let us know that he would like for us to delve into putting together a committee and starting a feasibility study. So.
Certainly. Well, deference to you guys, it is certainly yours to do. This was just an opportunity for us to say, you know, if you decide to move forward, I think there may be some support for us being of assistance to you in some kind of way.
And we certainly do appreciate that.
Okay.
Again, we're joined at the hip here.
Yes, sir,
What?
absolutely. All right. Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Aldermen, all right, thank you very much. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.